Good morning, guys, and welcome back to Speed Dahlgren, Building Your Smiles F86. And I'm going to flip the camera around and show you what the result is on my glassing technique here. And then this is going to be very short. Anyway, um, guys, this is what it's going to look like when you get trimmed up and this is the second coat. I want to show you before I actually flip these over on one side. I want you to see this because you can see how that actually flips around. Be careful when you do this. If you do this to check it, be damn careful because these will dent and these are finished sanded, and you want to be watching very carefully. Now, when you flip these over, you're going to notice it's been cold here, so this is taking a long time to cure out. But I have trimmed these a little bit, and then I'll come back and I'll sand these a little bit, sand these edges. But I want to show you this stuff. Once you use the denatured alcohol, any of these pieces, it's just like a piece of steel. This is it really penetrates and takes a long time for this to cure. And it's like I told a lot of you guys, when it comes to this and your fillers, if you use the Bondo that I use for fillers, when you come up and you look, you get it absorbs this material every bit as nice as the balsa does. Don't be afraid about like this in here. Any of these areas you filled with the Bondo, this is why I'm doing this. Guys, when you come up there and you do your filling first with your Bondo, it absolutely does. If you look in here, you can see where it's penetrated in there. It's actually gone through that Bondo and actually flowed itself into that wood. And this is only the second coat on this. And as you can see from this is a rudder. And as you can see here, it has done a beautiful job. One more coat on this and it'll fill that weave completely. I am actually going to take and sand this down with some 220 now, wet, after I've done this side. And in case you're wondering, I did actually oil my hinges on this. And the reason I did this is because I did this on the rudder. I left the hinges in there, and they're the 3/16 size, and they're completely free. They're not glued in any way. They're just as nice, but I just put a little drop of oil in there inside the hinge. You got to be very careful when you do it. I didn't do it on these because of the fact is that I'm using a little bit different hinge, and I'll talk about that later. I want to bring it up. If you treat everything up on something this big, this has only got one deal, little boogers here, but this stuff sands so easy. It's not even funny anyway. Anyway, guys, when you come into a big area like this gets impregnated with that resin, and it damn near soaks all the way through it. And that's why I use the alcohol method on here. And it's not a big deal, but I want to show you where I mixed a little bit on this. And this is what I used, a piece of balsa, just a scrap. And I've actually, without any glass or nothing on here, and with this resin impregnated into that stuff, guys, it's so freaking rigid that it's not even funny. And again, it's a preference to what you want to do. You can do this any way you want, but any of these things, and that's why I tell you guys, don't over sand your models, because excuse me, this is so flippin' strong, it's not even funny. And if you look, you can't even see the glass. You can't, you just, it literally, you know, it's there, but it literally disappears into that wood. And believe it or not, you can do this with you can do it with a razor blade and scrape this. I prefer to sand mine, and you got to be very gentle with it. You got to make sure you have enough material on this. And all I'm doing is knocking off any debris that I got off on that. Once this is done, then we'll use a 2K high build automotive type primer. It's an epoxy primer. And then I will take the same box and I will literally just punch a couple holes in there, and I'll come back and I'll paint all these up. They'll all be gray here before too long. And then we'll wet sand that down twice, because even though this looks all nice and neat and all nice and flat, your first coat, which will be 3 coats of epoxy primer that goes on here, you're going to see little bits like this and that you miss, and it's okay. A lot of that primer will fill a lot of this stuff in, and you can't over sand it. But at this point, we're going to start prepping this so we can start doing panel lines and things like that. However, I've got a lot of glassing to do, and I still got a lot of building to do, you know, especially when you have not built the wing tanks yet. I have framed them and glued them. I've got a lot to do on that, and I'm waiting for warmer weather. I don't have heat in this little area here. This is my storage, and it's fairly good size and everything. But basically, in a nutshell, taking twice as long to dry. This took 24 hours for this to fully set up, and I will leave this stuff on here. And I just went ahead and brushed over it real quickly. And basically what that's going to do is that's going to be an automatic masking for the servo base. And what we'll do here is we'll come back, and then once these are all done, I'll glass them in. And we'll start prepping for other little parts and pieces. But this is the tail planes, and I've got one more side to do. I probably won't do this on camera. The next video will be with both sides done, but you get the idea. And then I'll talk about what I did here on this counterweight and why I had to do it this way, because it's kind of it's going to be a cantankerous little sucker to get in there. And to do it, I got the part, I just got to find it, and then I'll glass it, and it'll be really cool. Now, I've got some little things to do with the fuselage, and I got some filling to do. I'm going to do that off camera and just get it done, and then I'll start prepping parts like this. I am ordering the new canopy and the actual frame, the fiberglass frame that Mears has. And I'm going to show you a little bit of what the modification to that's going to be. And we'll get this completely done and figured out. And it may require a rebuild of that frame. And if it does, I will show you, because I don't know. My thought is it was hard for me to kind of come in and actually get that arc right in this particular deal. So we're not going to strap the whole thing, but we will be doing a lot of fitting up for the next piece, because I don't want to do the canopy. I don't want to do the cockpit yet until I'm absolutely positive that I've done everything else that needs to be done in there for the seat. We may have to do a little bit fitting and cutting back. And then once we do that, then we will mark out, we'll install the gun parts. I'll show you that and how I'm going to do that. It's actually kind of cool. And that's actually a Peter Goldsmith idea that I'm kind of borrowing. So we're going to oblong some holes, and we're going to make a special bit that we can actually go and actually sand those in. And then I'm going to be using tubing to actually make the gun ports, because I am going to put barrels in them so you can actually see them. And I'm going to get those through Jerry Pree, and I'll share the links of what we're going to do, because now we're getting down to where we can start actually planning the detailing. And again, we're going to be using the Mears rivets and screws and the panels and everything else that goes along with this build is getting there. Landing gear, we're going to talk about more, because we're going to be making a fiberglass hatch under the deal. We're going to be laminating and laying up some, we're going to be laying up some epoxy on some pretty heavy cloth, and we're going to make a 3/16 thick hatch for the bottom of this and to where the gear doors go in. But we're also going to be building in some framing modifications, because I did get the landing gear to where it actually does rotate, and it'll be a 4-inch nose wheel, and it'll look real good. I'm excited to get that, but in order to do a lot of that, we need to get this done and actually primed so we can make a reverse mold. And I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. And if you want to see how I'm really making my gear doors, look up Hornet Pilot on YouTube, and that is Bob Moore. And look up how he does and how he is making his scale landing doors for the Top Flight P-51 Mustang. We're going to be using the identical same method, and then we're actually going to actually make it, and we're going to form it in here and make it removable so we can get in and take the gear out should we need to. And we are going to put the spotlights in it after all. We're going to start working on the mechanism for the speed brakes. And yes, they are long. And I'm going to explain what it is, because they are not finished. And then we're going to be doing some glassing in there and start getting that kind of trimmed out and done. And there'll be a lot of work on that to do. Then we'll start glassing the rest of this airframe. And once it's done, we get it in primer, it's going to start looking like a jet. And then we're finally going to start, once we get that done and we can actually get the gear installed and all the wiring, which most of the wiring is installed in this particular part of the plane for all the tail surfaces, and we talked about that. And we'll start working everything else, start installing servos and everything else. I'm going to start making this thing ready to almost fly. Now, I will cover a lot of the things as far as the tailpipe and the turbine, but I'm not going to go too much into the setup on there, because I'm assuming that a lot of you guys probably know a lot more about turbine setup than I do. This is my first jet, and I don't know a whole lot, but I will share with the class as much as I possibly can. Now, as far as wings and everything goes, back into this, I could not be happier than what's going on here. And I'm not in a big hurry. This is actually very important that this stays and actually gets smoothed up quite a bit and actually done and made to where these can be primered, sanded, and then we'll start working on panel lines and details. I'm using chart pack tape in 1/64 width, not 32nd. It's 32nd is entirely too wide. And on these particular jets, the panel lines are almost non-existent. So we're not going to go real deep on them. We're going to make them so that they're actually kind of, I don't know, there's a lot of different things. And then we're going to be showing, I'll be showing you how I do using the spot putty to make actual gear door outlines, raised panels, and things like that that you don't get with the detail kit. And they are probably better off that they're not, but we will be using all the screws. And once we get a lot more of this, then we will be able to actually make a very good and a very large assumption on everything else that is or isn't on it. So thanks so much to everybody that has watched, and thanks for a lot of your patience. I mean, winter's kind of been a little harsh on us for a lot of things, but this stuff is, like I said, now that these are glass, I could probably throw the damn things across the room. They probably wouldn't break or dent. And a lot of the fragile areas have become extremely rigid and very strong. So what we're going to be doing here at this point is actually brushing in some resin into areas that are not going to need to be worried about too much. But what we're doing is just basically coating and actually finishing these off so that you don't see a lot of wood like in here. This area here will all be done with a little bit of resin in there. And that's going to be to basically seal it up, but we're not going to get too crazy with it. And we will sand it, but it's a lot of, there's going to be a lot of detailing. And then once these are all done and actually done to where they can be done, and I've got them set up for panel lines, then we'll come in, we'll do a little bit of minor body work here and there, but we will actually start making this thing look as real as possible. And we will be doing a lot of tweaking here and there. There's going to be a lot of sanding details and everything when it comes to the priming, especially on that nose. There's a lot of parts that are going to need a lot of work, and it's not a lot of paint. And it's like I said, it'll need to be primed probably 3 times in order to get it fairly straight, but I don't want it perfectly straight. I want it to be a little wavy here and there because that's the way real airplanes are. They get what they call a beer canning effect. And we don't want it completely perfect, but we do want it to look really good. But a little bit of waviness in the wood and in what you're putting in on this is actually okay. It adds to the realism. Little dings and dents, don't worry about them. Matter of fact, I might add a little bit of dings and dents into certain parts of this because of the fact it is what it is. So we are going to be doing a lot, and then we're going to do the custom paint job on it. And I am going with a Korean War era, just as it was on the picture, and we're going to be doing this, and we're going to be using a lot of stencils and a lot of things from a lot of different people, and it will be done with Clasco paint. And so we want to make sure that we're using a good, what I really want to be looking at is using a very good the best paint I can get possible on this so that you're seeing the details and they don't disappear. And you got to go very light. And when we do that, we're going to make sure that we wait until at least July when it is hot and get it so that it can flash off and cure off fairly quickly. And I think a lot of the main thing is just getting the colors right. And we will be weathering and we will be doing these things because it just warrants looking great. Now, another thing is I may do too, because it is just a beautiful paint job and I like a lot of colors. If we do change it, we will change it to the German paint scheme, but we got a lot of details to do, a lot of things to build. And this will take another 6 months at least. It's going to take at least 3 months to detail this thing. And that's going to be putting a lot of time sitting up there, building the cockpit, installing the pilot, making his head move around, and a lot of little things, getting all the actuators to work so the canopy does sliding back and forth. And there will be some adjustments, making the speed brakes work and making sure everything's working really nice. And then the main thing is once it's done and it's basically detailed and ready to paint, I will take it, assemble it, set it outside, take some pictures of it before it's actually painted with all of its rivets and everything showing, and show the world of what the result is of this beautiful Mirror's model set for 86. And it's been a very good year. I mean, for all of you guys that know, we lost a hangar, and I lost the Spitfire that I spent 2 years detailing and building. And this is every bit as nice, if not nicer, than what that one was. And so this is going to be an epic build as far as the proportions go and everything. I will put this one, as far as its capabilities and everything else and what it is and how it's built and everything, I will put it against just about any of the Air World. I will put it against any of the Tomahawk. And actually, guys, I actually believe this to be prettier than the Tomahawk. And I'm being biased on that. And the reason is because we have built our whole entire airplane. This is not a fiberglass molded airplane. It's going to have a lot of character and details that they just are not, unless you're willing to restart and do things, it's there. But we're also going to build this airplane and finish it up for probably less than what the retracts and the kit costs. So with the exception of the turbines and everything else that's out there, guys, and especially to Dimano and Diamano and all that, I'm gonna give a congratulations now, because now that these parts have been glassed and how strong this airplane is, it's easy to understand and actually see why these kits came to play from Serbia, especially when you consider Diamano is actually the designer of most of the jets that you're seeing now. Another part that I want to bring up to everybody is that the one main thing is here that I want everybody out there that's been watching this build and understand is, if you followed all the steps that I told you and everything, this is going to be the strongest airplane by the long shot. It'll be extremely strong, very resilient. Whether you're building the single or two-piece fuselage, you're going to have one of the strongest airplanes out there. This airplane is basically built like a brick shit house. So the design is incredible. The build is extremely easy. If you followed all the steps that I've told you when you come out here, once you get your parts, start glassing, and you can push on them and you can see just how strong this airplane actually, in fact, really is. And you spent the time on this to take the time to build it using the Gorilla Glue. You've sanded all your parts. You've trued them up the way I told you to do it in the prior videos and everything else. And you've taken the time to build this thing, and you've done it correctly. Your results are going to astound you on how strong this airplane really, in fact, is. It's going to have a lot of really cool little options available in it. And it's like I tell everybody, get inspired, get out there, build something. I'm very proud of this. And I am extremely happy with the airplane at this point. I have it has no bad habits, and it's a beautiful flying airplane. So once you guys get out there and you get to this point where you start glassing, now back to the glassing, because I'm rambling a little bit, I want to explain to you guys. It is completely and totally up to what you do and what you know to make this airplane strong and make it safe. If you're not comfortable with using the alcohol method that I do, then just squeegee it out, do it. I've explained a lot of this, but the alcohol, guys, it doesn't weaken it, not even the slightest little bit. It takes the water out of the resin, and it actually makes it penetrate this wood even deeper. It does not add a lot of weight at all. As a matter of fact, the weight ratio on this stuff, guys, for 1 ounce cloth is 1 ounce per square yard. And I did not weigh these before, but I can guarantee you I could. But guys, they're not, this thing is so light, it's not even funny. And I think actually the servo will actually weigh more than this finish does. And we are going to be adding a weight, but for the whole entire airplane, the weight ratio for doing it in glass like this is only maybe a pound. I would not even do this. And again, guys, a lot of this will be sanded off. It's going to get lighter. The fluids they actually get lighter as they dry. As soon as all the solvents and everything evaporate, it actually does get lighter and thinner. So I wouldn't worry too much about the weight. And believe it or not, guys, when you get over quarter scale, really, the overall weight, it does matter because there is weight limitations depending on where you're at and where you're flying. But really, the fact of the matter is the weight does not matter after quarter scale, and that's why we have not ordered the turbine yet, because the turbine weighs about 4 pounds. All the electronics and everything that goes in that airplane, retracts, this and that, by the time you get it. Guys, this airplane, I weighed it all together with the wings without having to be heated, but really, it's a pretty safe bet that the wings are not going to get much heavier. But this fuselage, and I will weigh it after it's glass and actually primered, just to show you. That airplane only weighs 18 pounds. Now you can take 18, and that is a guesstimate on approximately what that wood weighs attached to that. So, and that's how I determine what it's going to be. And it is not heavy. This airplane right now, by the time, figure it this way, got an 18-pound airplane empty. We've got fuel tanks going in. We got a turbine. The tanks and the turbine alone are about roughly 4.5 pounds. All of your electronics, retracts, everything, your batteries, everything that's going in there, you're adding about 12 pounds to this airplane. And then you got to figure out, this one's going to hold 1.5 gallons of fuel. And I do have the fuel tank just about ready to sand off, and I'll 2K prime it when I do these parts, and that's why I've not done it yet. And then I'll send that off to Bob Moore to have him make me the 2 big fuel tanks for this. The strainer I'll get top of the line, everything when I do the fuel pumps, all that stuff, start ordering that stuff. I'm going to be using an I-12 radio on this. It's a Spectrum radio, and I'll be using the new power center. You can use Royal, you can use anything you want, but I'm going to be running 3 satellites in this thing, and it doesn't weigh that much. and it's fully programmable and everything else. So we got a lot more other things to do. We got a lot to do, and this is going to be fine. But I'm sure once you see this, once this is all glassed and about ready to primer and all these other little buggers that I did that need to be repaired before we actually do that, I think you're all going to agree that this is the right way to do it. And this is just the way we're going to roll. And again, I'm building this crude, and I'm doing this because, well, for one, I haven't built any workbenches in here yet. I just use this thing. I'll use boxes, anything I can. But again, too, I work on real here too. And these are all things that I'm getting ready to do otherwise. And these are all things that I just want to emphasize to everybody that need to be done. And it's like I said, this is kind of a multi-role deal, and we're going to get through a lot of this. This airplane will be a world-class deal. And then over time, you're going to see over the course of the next build this, because we're just getting really started. We're going to be showing and going to be building a lot of really cool things into this airplane, as well as other airplane builds that I will be doing. And some of them will be actual real airplanes in here. I'm going to actually be fitting up an actual fuselage for Baby Lakes. I got contracted to build one, and it will barely fit against that wall. It's actually pretty cool, and it's going to be fun. So anyway, keep watching, guys, and we'll get all of this stuff. These things are just going to be pretty cool at this point.